guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Mail. So for today, I'm going to go over a very entertaining email I sent from a subscriber. This from a guy, he is in his late 40s, he's been divorced for 11 years now, and for the first 6 years of his divorce, he had peace and quiet. It was the dream that we all knew, or most of us know about. However, at the 6th year, he started to think maybe he was missing out, to maybe see what was out there once again, and got back on that horse to see the modern dating scene. And this story is all about that, what he goes through and all that. And at the end of the story, you're going to see, after his experience, what he preferred more. The peace and quiet that he had, that many of us enjoy, or the sarlacc pit that is the modern dating. Well, you're going to see. And be prepared to be entertained. So, it starts off, says here, hello SSM. I'm a big fan of your content. In fact, I watch SSM, Hit the Bricks, and They Did What whenever I'm on the downtime. Well, brother, I appreciate you watching all 3 of my channels. And guys, if you don't see my other channels, check them out. They Did What, Hit the Bricks, subscribe. Even if they're not your cup of tea, subscribe anyway. It helps me out. They're all very entertaining and very true, I might add. Which brings me to my own story. I'm a guy pushing 50, divorced for nearly 11 years. My ex-wife cheated on me, no surprise there, when she found a job after staying home for 8 years. Well, we divorced, and as you say, she tried to come back when things didn't work out. But don't worry, I didn't take her back. Of course she came back when things didn't work out. Good for you, man. She's out there, her life's sucking right now. But this story is not about my ex-wife. It's about my foray into the dating world. After nearly 6 years of being single, I decided to see what was out there. I tried the traditional route at first, approaching women in public, grocery stores, bookstores, social events, with no luck. The thing is, it is a different world. Starting a conversation with a stranger is sort of frowned upon. Most of the time, people think you're weird or even dangerous. Therefore, I followed the advice of friends and tried local dating apps. You see what he said right there? At first, the old way. Actually talking to people, talking to women. And it got him nowhere because he was looked upon like he was creepy or anything like that. I'm sure most of you saw that video I did a couple days ago about the articles and that crazy lady ranting about guys aren't hitting on her or approaching her and all that, and women are fed up about that whole thing. Why? Right there. Because you, God forbid, talk to somebody in public, they look at you like you're nuts. Unless you're like the top 5% of guys out there. Right here. Proves it. And we all know how dating apps are, so you can't talk to women in public. The dating apps are garbage. They only go for the top 5%, so hence the world we're in right now. And they're all bitching about it and blaming us. Of course. Anyhow, he says, my initial thought was nothing. Nothing was going to happen, and I was fine with that. The 6 years I was single were peaceful and stress-free. Then why screw up a good thing, brother? But there was still part of me that longed for female companionship, so I was giving it a last-ditch effort. Well, define companionship. Because if it's the companionship that a lot of us are thinking, you could have paid for that. As opposed to dealing with, the modern dating scene. Well, days went by, and I had nearly forgotten the app. But then I got matches. All divorcees like myself. When I got my first one, I was actually pretty excited. I sent her a message and got one back immediately. To my dismay, the woman couldn't stop talking about herself. Everything was I like this, or I like that, etc. I couldn't even get a message in. And when I did, she ignored everything I wrote, continuing on about herself. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Most women talk a lot and talk about themselves, and they don't give a shit about hearing you have to say. They want to just blah, 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 attention and validation. Now, if they find you as a potential catch, they obviously want to inquire about things. And usually a lot of those questions are geared towards, well, no surprise, your life, your status, your job, your income, little things they ask you to try to not be so direct. But then again, some are very direct. The next one we actually got to talking for real. But she was too pessimistic towards men. Our conversations would start out normal, but then quickly develop into rants against the toxicity of men. In other words, she was an effinist. And that's a no-go. There were some actual dates as well, where I met and went out with women. Most of them were around my age, so it was odd they kept mentioning that I looked older in person. Mind you, I'm actually closer to 40 at that point. I'm in good shape and have good hair. The irony is all of them look older than their pictures too. Yeah, a lot of people, there'll be a picture from like 8 years ago or something like that. Then there was Melanie. She was younger than what I usually match with, mid-30s and very attractive. According to her photos, I was somewhat suspicious, but she messaged me first and everything seemed normal. She was mature and our conversations were great, so after a few days we decided to meet up. Okay, that sounds pretty promising. Finally, after a bunch of wackos and a feminist and a woman that was all into herself, a prospect. Since she was located further away, we agreed to meet at a pub that was a bit closer to her. I got there early and sat down at the bar, where I could see everyone coming in, and in her pictures, Melanie was a blonde with beautiful blue eyes. Okay, sounds good. As time passed by, I kept looking but didn't see anyone who looked like Melanie. Then a brunette walked in and immediately made eye contact with me. I thought it was coincidental, but she approached me and smiled and said, "Hi, I'm Melanie." I was taken aback because the woman didn't look anything like the one in the photo. Not just because of the hair color, but it was a completely different person. You were catfished. Or at the very least, different pictures. It's ridiculous. For a moment, I thought it was a joke or a prank. I kept looking around expecting someone to tell me I was on YouTube or something like that. But Melanie seated herself beside me and acted like nothing was unusual. I did notice her voice was the same one that spoke to me, but she obviously wasn't the same woman in the photos. I told you this is a good one, guys. Now, obviously our guy's going to inquire about the obvious. Wait till you hear her answer. For a moment, I tried to play along like nothing was wrong, but then I gave up and just told her, "You're not the person in the photos." Her reaction was not one I was expecting. She laughed and said, "Oh yeah, that lady is actually my friend. She's married, but lets me use her photos because we all know how dangerous meeting strangers can be. But once I talked to you, I knew you were fine." Hey ladies, called bait and switch, or you're catfishing me in a way. No, it's not cool to use your friend's pictures. I'm not buying the whole safety thing. Yeah, you gotta be careful. Of course, guys. But still, no. Her friend is obviously better looking than her. She used that to lure this guy in, and now she's hoping that, she's okay enough looking, or he's too nice to just be like, "Nah, not happening." Personally, if it was me, I'd say, "Hey, you know what? You're dishonest, you're devious. I don't like that," because that's a clear sign of her personality. I would have walked. End of story. Somebody's got to teach her a lesson. It was as if my expectations didn't matter at all to her. I almost walked out, and in hindsight, I should have. Smack! Damn right you should have, because I know how this story goes. But I admit, I was a little desperate for companionship at that point, so I stayed. I mean, she wasn't unattractive, she was average and had a great smile, just not gorgeous like the girl in the photos. Even if she was okay looking, bangable, but nothing great, still the fact that she pulled that shit, that opens a whole can of worms of other things about her personality. But let's be honest here, you want to get laid. Aside from the deception, Melanie was a nice girl. We ordered drinks and talked a bit. The more I got to know her, the more I actually relaxed and liked her. In fact, instead of going back to our respective homes, we got a hotel and spent the night together. Well, there you go. You got some ass. But that ass has a price. And though I might add, this ain't girlfriend material. 1, hooking up on the first date, and number 2, the obvious, her misrepresenting herself and her justification and all that. Well, we made plans to meet up in a few days. That's when things began to get out of hand. Who would have thought? Melanie would text me constantly, asking what I was doing and where I was. This was every single day. She would leave me messages at weird hours, and one morning I woke up to 40 messages. 40 messages, bro? You think that ass was worth it? The messages went from cheerful to sobbing pleas, begging me not to leave her. I wasn't even aware we were dating yet. I thought we were just filling each other out. Brother, you got yourself a stage 5 clinger. Holy shit. This is when you bail. Cut her off. You don't need this shit. But if he did, we wouldn't have this good story because we're just getting started. Then one day we were supposed to meet up. Dude, why are you meeting up? The pussy could have been that good. Well, then the day came we were supposed to meet. Melanie showed up at my apartment. I didn't even know how she found my place. Stalker. I heard the intercom buzz and asked her who it was. When I heard Melanie's voice answer, "It's me, open up," I got the creepiest vibe. When I asked how she knew where I lived, she just ignored it and said, "Hurry, I need help." Dude. Well, when I let her in, she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by 4 children, ages 4 through 10 years old. Single mom, huh? 4 kids. She didn't mention that on the date, huh? Or when you were talking before you met up at fucking Applebee's or Cheesecake Factory, wherever you met up. Her oldest was a 10-year-old boy, followed by an 8-year-old girl, and 2 twin girls, both 4 years old. "What's going on?" I asked. Melanie apologized profusely and said their fathers were supposed to take them, but none were around. And I said, "Wait, hold on, did you say fathers?" Apparently the twins shared the same dad, and the other 2 had different dads, so 3 dads in total. Holy crap. Okay, let's review. She completely misrepresented herself through her pictures. She didn't mention anything about having any kids, let alone multiple kids when you're talking, let alone 3 different fathers. I have to question, was she ever married at all? And when you met in person, didn't do all this. And this, after you hooked up, she won't leave you alone, bombards you with texts at all weird hours, 40 when you woke up, sobbing, freaking out, and showing up at your place unannounced with a bunch of kids. Dude, this is when you slam the door and pray to God that the police are nearby. Well, I told Melanie I couldn't do it. I thought that would be the end of it, but she actually said this to me. "Yes, you can. You're a good person. You told me yourself. You wanted children, but it didn't work out. Now you have a chance for a family. We can go to the park. It will be fun." Man, this chick ought to sell cars. She is convincing. And persistent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I simply told her she had to leave because I didn't sign up for this. Good for you, man. You went way too far with her, but thank God you're standing your ground. Well, she stared at me for a moment, called me an asshole, and then left with her kids. I have to admit, I did feel a bit crappy doing that, but I was only protecting myself. Yes, you have to protect yourself. Look how crazy things got just a few days after you went out on a date with her and hooked up with her. Well, a few hours later, Melanie texted me and asked if we could remain friends. No. Well, this is where I screwed up. I responded yes, thinking it meant we could go out for drinks once in a blue moon. Well, I was wrong. Smack! Oh, my man. I guess this is what led you to finding my channel and other content like mine, huh? Well, to no surprise, the text started up once again. But this time it was asking for things like, "Can you babysit for me? Do you think you could lend me $300? I'll pay you back when I get paid. Can I drop off the kids for a few hours? Do you want to go grocery shopping with us?" Etc., etc. The single MOMs never disappoint. Looking for an ATM, looking for a babysitter. It goes on and on and on. Well, I finally got smart and told her we can't be friends anymore. Then I blocked her. Thank God. I wish that was the end of my story, but it gets weirder. Of course, she's nuts. Well, one evening, my door buzzes. I think it's my brother because he literally just left and probably forgot something. So I hit the button to let him in. When I open the door, Melanie is standing in my doorway. Holy shit, dude. Which means she was just waiting to get in. Probably she convinced somebody at your building to like buzz her in to get into the hallway, and then she worked her way up, that type of thing. Well, she's all made up and her hair is blonde now. Oh, how nice of her. It's finally blonde. I don't know what to say, since I'm shocked she would show up again. Then she breaks the silence by saying, "I finally got the kids a sitter, so I thought we could cuddle and watch a movie." I said, no, you have to leave, before I called the police. I closed the door and I locked it. I heard her lingering in the hallway for a bit before finally leaving. I haven't heard or seen her since, and I don't intend to date anymore. I realize now my life is perfect the way it is. The end. So there you go. After 6 years of peace and quiet and all that, you had to see what was out there, what you're missing. Well, like I said, the dating scene, modern dating is the Sarlacc pit. Absolute. A cesspool. It is what it is. And again, I love the part that he tried to meet people the old-fashioned way, that people have been meeting with each other since the beginning of time. We could all communicate. That didn't work. Then the dating apps. And that didn't work. And the girl he finally thought he had a connection with, she's full of shit on so many levels, it's unbelievable. And a stage 5 clinger. And showed up at your place, and a single mom with 3 fathers for the 4 kids, and on and on and on. So, there you go. Can you blame guys for walking away and choosing peace and quiet? All you need, guys, if you're done with all that, is some kind of purpose or goal that you can work on every day, whatever that is. At least be on the way to having a job or career you enjoy, having hobbies and interests, friends you hang out with, family you have a good time with, your dog or your dogs, cats, whatever, lizards, goldfish, I don't care, whatever it is you care about. You don't have to be in a relationship to have happiness in this world. And not to mention, you have a whole lot more money in your bank account otherwise. But if you're a guy that does like female companionship and you can sift through the bullshit and occasionally find a good one out there, a good enough one that you can hang out with, have some fun with, but not get too serious with, knock yourself out. But a lot of guys out there, a lot watching this channel, are done. And they're just like this guy. But there you go. And again, you can see why so many guys are just like, no thanks, nuh-uh. And there are plenty of women out there that can watch a video like this and say, well, you know what? It's just as bad for us. Guys are a-holes, and they're players, and they're users. It's like, no, that's Chad entire room. That's a small percent. Or they'll complain saying, well, guys aren't good enough anymore. Oh, yeah, well, define good, honey. And there you go. So, bro, good story. I appreciate you writing in. And that was obviously 5 years ago, and you've obviously been watching my channel for a while, and there's a reason you have. It backs it all up. Thanks for sending it in. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story to share. Be sure to send it my way, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. That is your own personal story, a question you may have, a good article you want me to cover. Send it my way. I'll probably find use for it in one of the channels. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.